But I imagine how frustrating that must have been for Stacy, you know, you saying like, let this guy play a high school kid. He's probably going to be good. And production like, no, he's too old. And then 2 years later, Scream premieres and it's a huge success and nobody thought he was too old to play the high school character. Hi, hello, my name is Nitya and today I'm gonna talk about a movie that is very underrated, but it's actually one of my favorites ever, even though it is considered one of Winona Ryder's worst movies, if not the worst, and that's Boys. I am going to split this video in 3 sections so I keep myself focused because I have a lot to say about this. We're gonna have the basics, plot and cast, and then in the second part I'm actually going to explain you the production and the post-production as well as the reception that the movie got. And at the end I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions. All of this is spoiler free. Maybe I will say a spoiler or two in my thoughts and opinions, but I'm gonna give you a warning. So if you have not watched it yet, you can go ahead freely. There is nothing in here that will ruin the movie for you. But if you have seen it, maybe there's some discussions going on. And if you have seen it, please tell me in the comments what you thought of it and what do you think with all of this information. So without further ado, let's get into it. Boys is a film premiered in 1996, directed by Stacy Cochran. It stars Winona Ryder, the iconic Winona, as Patty Bear. Then we have Lukas Haas, whom you may know from movies like The Witness, The Revenant, or Inception. He plays John Baker Jr. We also have some other big names like John C. Reilly, whom you may know from movies like We Need to Talk About Kevin, The Lobster, and Boogie Nights. And he plays Officer Caleb Curry. I'm sorry, I have a lot of notes in here so I don't miss anything. We have Skid Ulrich, yes, the one from Scream and The Craft, and As Good as It Gets. He plays Bob Valentine, a very famous baseball player. We'll see about that. And then we have Wiley Wiggins, the star of Dazed and Confused and Waking Life. He plays John Phillips, which is Baker's best friend. And then we have Charlie Hofheimer, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right either, so excuse me. But he has been in movies, or was, like Black Hawk Down and Father's Day. He plays John Cook and he's basically Baker's little minion. Yeah, he does everything for Baker. There's a bunch of other kids in there, but I'm gonna skip them and some other characters because they're not really relevant for the plot. So the movie is actually inspired by 20 Minutes, a short story from James Salter, and it's from his book Dusk, but I found it on a website called expressenglish.com, and I'm gonna leave you the link below if you wanna read the short story. But I do wanted to read you like the summary because I think it sums it up pretty well. The short story is about a woman, Jane Bear, riding a horse in the countryside, is paralyzed in a fall. She estimates that she will die from her injuries if help doesn't arrive within 20 minutes. And as the minutes tick by, she recalls recent events in her life. Sadly, the picture they paint is not a very happy one. The central theme is, of course, death, other themes, family estrangement, marriage, unfaithfulness, loneliness, desperation, and unfulfilled dreams. The first draft that Stacy Cochran, who wrote and directed the movie, wrote actually had all of these feelings, all of this vibe, but we're gonna get into that later. Boys actually starts with John C. Reilly playing the officer going to visit Winona Ryder. He interrogates her because the famous baseball player Bud Valentine is missing, and she's actually the last person people saw him with. We can tell Winona knows something, like she knows more than she tells, but the officer leaves and then she literally runs and goes for a ride on her horse. Unfortunately, she falls off the horse and we cut dramatically to a boarding school, like an all boys boarding school, and we meet John Baker Jr. He is a very angsty teenager. He doesn't see the point of school or his life really anymore. His friends are kind of messy and he feels trapped until Cook arrives and tells him, like, dude, bring the car, I found something, we need you. So he goes. We quickly realize that these kids found Patty Bear, Winona. She briefly wakes up and she's like, please don't take me to the police, or the hospital. And the other kid is like, we should take her to a doctor, like she fell off a horse. I think she's bleeding or something, like a little bit, it's nothing. And Baker says like, no, she clearly doesn't want to go to the authorities, so they take her back to the boarding school, the all boys boarding school, and they hide her in Baker's room. So yeah, the movie follows Baker trying to hide Patty from the rest of the boys at school, even from his friends. And then we have like flashbacks of Patty's night with Bud Valentine, and we kind of slowly figure out what happened. All of this while Patty and Baker kind of start to, like each other. The thing about the movie is that it's very evident that nobody wanted it to end up like it ended up. And I don't know why most critics never pointed at that, like, at all. Like, they started to point, obviously, like, fingers to the directors and whatever, but it's like, dude, it's the studio. Stacy Cochran had this big debut movie called My New Gun, and it was funny and different and amazing, and it got great reception. The critics loved it. It was her thesis, I think. Yeah, for her Master of Fine Arts degree, and it went to Cannes. I say Cannes because I speak Spanish, but it received amazing reviews. So it's really like, it makes no sense that a director that can do that wanted to do this the way it ended up. Actually, in an interview with Peekaboo magazine, Stacy says that when her debut film came out and everything was amazing and everybody loved it, she said, I'd find myself thinking, why does everyone say the movie business is so problematic? Later, I found out. And she found out when she signed for her second movie, Voice, with Interscope Pictures. It's really upsetting to me because this movie was probably going to be a masterpiece. She wrote the script, the rewrites too. She had a very promising team. I mean, the director of photography was Robert Elswit, who shots in such a beautiful way. You may know his work from movies like Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Nights, and most recently King Richard. But something went wrong in the production. I researched this really hard because there's not a lot of interviews of Stacy, especially not talking about boys. So I just wanted answers, and I did when I found Projections 11 New York Filmmakers on Filmmaking. This is a book where Stacy goes like really in depth. It's not just about her. Like, you should totally read it if you like movies. There are a lot of cool, very cool cinematographers, directors, writers, filmmakers in general. And Stacy is really open about everything in there, especially everything that went into voice. So I'm gonna sum it up for you. So Stacy says that she met the producers Paul Felcher and Peter Frankfurt. They told her they wanted to do something with this short story, 20 minutes, and asked her if she could come up with an idea or, a script or anything. And she said yes. So she made this draft, changing some details, in the story. The protagonist was Jane Vere, and she was like a middle-aged woman. And here is Patty Vere, Winona Ryder, and she's 25, I think. In the story, she also does not meet anyone, but Stacy gave life to this story and adapted it for a film. And Boys was supposed to be a comedy. Like, it was just going to maintain the heart of melancholy and grief and all of those feelings I read you about. And it was actually filmed in that way. Like, it was shot as a comedy, even if the final result that is out there in the world has not a lot of it. Stacy said, and I quote, "Originally, the idea was that the movie will start out being about this woman, Patty Vere. You're trying to get a handle on who she is, and you're making assumptions about what the movie is going to feel like that become incorrect as soon as the horse's hoof hit the fence." Oh, the horse's hoof hit the fence while it's jumping, and that's why Patty falls. "You weren't meant to realize how melancholic the film is until you got to the end of the movie. You were meant to be diverted from the melancholy aspect for the body of the movie. So when it comes back to you, you realize it's been there all along." That was the idea, to make a movie that is floating over the top of this bedding of grief that's underneath it all. But obviously, the studio Interscope botched it, like destroyed that. Ever since they signed to do it, they asked her for a lot of rewritings. And Stacy actually says that she liked it because she felt like they were pushing her to do better and she liked a challenge. And she says it was actually getting better every time she rewrote it, which was cool to her. And she never felt out of control because it was like after all her creation she was writing, she had all the control. And then they got Winona Ryder. And listen, this is I think they started this in like 1993, like peak Winona. She was loved and hated and everything by everyone. So they were all very excited that Winona got to do it. And then Stacy made a final rewrote that everyone, like literally everyone in the team, and the big CEOs and all the executives that were into this liked it. Like, everyone was like, yes, that's the movie we were trying to make all along. And Winona Ryder did not like it. So Winona did not like this new ending. She wanted the ending, when they gave her the script, she wanted the ending of that script that she had read. I don't know if I'm making any sense. But Winona wanted another ending, not the one that everyone loved. And Stacy was really sad. She says she was torn between saying, "Winona, I love you. I adore you so much and want you to play Patty so bad that I am going to change the ending. I'm going to not use the script that everyone likes." Or say, you know, Winona, I love you. We all adore your job and your work, but we are going to, you know, move on and find somebody else because we really like this last version. But when she went to the executives with this problem, like, guys, she didn't like the ending, what should we do? She says things turned totally insane. And all of this happened 2 weeks before filming. Like, the sets had already been built. Like, there were 2 weeks left to start everything, and everyone was fighting because of this. And you know, obviously the executives did not want it to lose Winona Ryder. She was Winona Ryder. Like, people were going to see the movie because of Winona Ryder. And then when they actually started filming, Winona didn't even got the editor that she wanted approved until like 2 weeks after they started shooting. And then when this editor came, there was a lot of work to do. 14 days of hours of film that she needed to cut down to make the dailies. I think that's how they're called. So they told the production like, hey, hello, would you give us like a few more days to finish this? And production was like, no, actually hurry up because we changed our minds and now we're taking away 2 weeks of shooting. So just shoot faster and edit faster. And then the casting issues started. But Valentine was actually supposed to be played by Dermot Mulroney, whom you may know from My Best Friend's Wedding with Julia Roberts. Yes, that man was going to be the famous baseball player, and I liked him. I think he makes a lot of sense for that part, but sadly he had something else going on. I think he had to leave last minute, and the studio just say, you know what, let's put Skid Ulrich in this. Stacy was like not sure about it because she actually had pushed before for Skid Ulrich to be Baker. She thought he has like this mysterious aura, but production was like, no, he's too old, he's not gonna look like a teenager. And I kind of agree with them. Like, not that he was old, but I cannot imagine him playing Lukas. Lukas has this very, I don't know, it was wrong for me. But I imagine how frustrating that must have been for Stacy, you know, you saying like, let this guy play a high school kid. He's probably going to be good. And production like, no, he's too old. And then 2 years later, Scream premieres and it's a huge success and nobody thought he was too old to play the high school character. So after all of those issues, because she is an amazing director, Stacy did it. Like, she delivered an incredible first cut of the movie after the 8 weeks of filming. She says, it was good. We were all excited and everyone was laughing because it was a comedy. It was supposed to be a comedy and then have this melancholic ending that will remind you that it was melancholic at the beginning. It sounds so good. But yeah, everyone was happy with that first draft. And one of the executives said, okay, let's just work together now to make the ending work. Because the ending was not good. Remember, they ended up filming the finale that Winona wanted, not the one in the script that everyone loved. Winona won, obviously. But then they had this first screening with this cut, and some people didn't got, like, they did not understand all the backstory about Winona, but they empathized with Baker, the teenager. So Stacy suggested to, you know, make Winona's story more compelling and more attention grabbing, and, you know, make it better, make Winona's part better, like backstory and everything better. And the studio was like, no, should just cut all of her background and let's go with Baker. Like, that's what people want to see. And everything about Winona and her life and her horse, well, cut. They tried to bring Baker to the front and Winona to the back. Stacy says she wrote more scenes because The Bridge of Madison also came out. I don't know if you have seen that movie, but it's really romantic, I guess. It stars Meryl Streep. God, I forgot the guy. The story is told on like a son reads letters of her mother, so we see the whole story in flashbacks. And the studio was like, we like that. Like, Stacy, write Winona's story and, you know, the night and everything as flashbacks. So Stacy did. She says she was a little disappointed that they were not trusting her and they were cutting Patty, but she was like, okay, they are not hiring anyone else to write this. They are hiring me. They're telling me. So she put all of her effort to make this work with what she have, and she rewrote some things. The actors went back and reshoot the new scenes and everything, but then the studio makes another screening and the audience didn't like it, and they were like, you know what, Stacy, this is not working, bye. It was obviously a terrible idea because Stacy, like, she knew, she had the vision. So whoever they hired to try to make this better literally botched everything. The film was weird. Stacy says her script was gone, the scenes felt clumsy, and then the studio was like, okay, maybe we did made a mistake. Stacy, please come back. And she was like, what is this? It's terribly paced. So she and her team tried to repair the damage and, you know, make it feel more like a melancholic story, because that's what they were trying to do all along. The saving they could do was, or is, the version we actually know. Stacy said, somehow or other, by the very end, we kind of liked it again. But then the reviews were so bad that everybody turned tail. It's very sad how she acknowledged that everyone knew the studio did not want this movie to succeed at all. Like, she says even her agent told her, the studio doesn't like it, they're being jerks about this, but you know, I think it's kind of cool what you did at the end, how you saved it. Everything's gonna be okay. Maybe the critics are going to love this. And then everyone hated. And then she recalls that one of her friends was a journalist in a very small paper. This girl was trying to make a feature story on Lukas Haas for boys. And she called the studio to say this, like, help me, you know, let's schedule something. And the studio told her, you know, don't do it. He's got another movie coming out for somebody else in the fall. Do it for that one. Stacy was 9 months pregnant by this time. She started working on Voice in 1993, and then it was 1996. She was 9 months pregnant and she was getting terrible reviews. Everyone hated it. The studio was not helping her at all. She had an amazing debut, and then her second movie was being a fiasco, and it was not her fault. Boys only scores 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It only has like 27 reviews, but Terrence Rafferty for The New Yorker actually saw the beauty the movie has, and so I cannot seem to find the full review because I'm not paying for The New Yorker. Sorry, I don't really read it that much. I found a lot of quotes about this, so I'm gonna read some to you. The humor of Boys grows out of its youthful lovers' restlessness and dissatisfaction. Haas' geeky ardor is touching and funny, and Ryder gives a strikingly lucid portrayal of a muddled spirit. Essentially a screwball comedy, but one that dares to do without the familiar contrivances of farce. What holds the movie's volatile mixture of tones and characters together is the filmmaker's willingness to write her own complex romantic sensibility as far as it will take her. This young filmmaker may have more deeply subversive sensibility than any of her celebrated peers. No wonder Boyce has baffled almost everyone. Cochran keeps throwing screwballs to viewers who can't seem to handle anything but the hard stuff anymore. If there's one thing studio marketers are good at, it's ensuring that a movie they dislike doesn't succeed, he said. And I think he's right about pretty much everything. Jonathan Rosenbaum wrote for the Chicago Reader. The actors do a nice job of investing it all with a certain conviction, and there's a fairy tale tinge to some of the action that gives it a certain charm. That review is the one that resonates a lot with me. I found Boys because it was on TV randomly, and I only got to see the beginning because I had to leave, and I saw, the fields of green, and it looks very pretty. And I looked for it, and that's how I become obsessed with it. Like for years, when anyone asked me what my favorite movie was, I was like, "You probably don't know it. It's Boys with Winona Ryder," and nobody knew it. Nobody did. Um, and then I kind of grew out of it a little. But I remember back then I was probably like 18 or 19 when I found it. It was very alluring for me. Lukas Haas is so cute in it. He has like this, he looks at Winona with awe. He's like, "Oh my god, you're so pretty, you're so cool, you're so mysterious, like I want to know you, I want to get to know everything about you." He's a totally a 17-year-old, and also Wiley is so hot. I think he was like around my age when he was like around the age that I had when he filmed it, and he has the long hair, and he's so cute. um and then there's this scene in the fair. I'm gonna give like mild spoilers, like this is not gonna ruin the movie for you, but you can skip it. I'm gonna put the time in here. But the scene of the fair, you see like the lights of the games and the carousel, and how he looks at her, and he's so overwhelmed with the emotions he has for her, and he's like, "Marry me." um and then when they kiss, it's very like the review says, it feels like a dream. It feels like a teenage fairy tale in a very weird way. I don't know, man. There was always something about this movie to me, and now that I know the whole story, it's even more special to me. I'm always trying to figure out what was actually going to happen. What was the reason, as Cardi B will say, and I will pay a lot of money to just watch the first cut that Stacy made, the 8-week cut. I will pay with everything I have to watch it, or even to read the script, the original, the one that Winona did not like. It's very sad to how female directors and new directors are treated. I think females sometimes have less confidence because it's hard. Like, do you know how many women have won the director award on the Oscars? Exactly. It's too little, it's very hard to win respect and whatever. This case reminded me a lot of Dazed and Confused by Richard Linklater. Amazing movie, iconic, but it was similar. Like, the studio sabotaged it. Like, Linklater had to fight for everything, and then when he said like, "This is my cut, like this is it," um, the as the other review said, the distribution was so bad that it flopped on cinemas. But Linklater actually got the vision that he wanted. This studio never got anyone to rewrite or forced him to do something else, to, you know. And it's a great movie. It's amazing. I really do love it a lot. And I know I'm rambling, but like, Stacy could have had her Dazed and Confused, you know. And there's movies that are supposed to be like a little cult classics and misunderstood, but still making justice to the director. Donnie Darko was kind of the same thing. Like, it flopped on cinemas. It became a cult classic in VHS, and that's how it's now iconic. So I am gonna keep watching Boys till the end of my days and trying to figure out what happened. If someone knows Stacy Cochran, if you're one of her kids, for the love of God, or her grandchildren, please, please tell her to tell me what was going to happen, because I would love to know. But yeah, I think that is going to be everything from me today. I hope you liked it. I know I sound a little bit unhinged every time I let myself ramble with my thoughts and opinions. And I don't know if I made any sense, like, at all in this last part, but I hope you can tell that I really care about this film a lot. And you can watch it. It's actually here on YouTube. You don't need to pay for it, sadly. For, well, no, forget it. Like, Stacy's probably not gonna get anything if you have to pay. So you can watch it here on YouTube. Just search up Boys 1996, and there it is. It's even in high quality. So yeah, go watch Boys. Go leave me a comment first of what do you think, and if you liked the movie, if you have watched it, what Winona Ryder movie do you think it's actually worst, or if you want me to research on any movie that you like and tell you how everything went down, please write me in the comments too. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and everything is down below in here. I'll see you soon.